Since I am a sellout hack, and because of the latest success of my one villainous scene, Mr. Orange Gets Shot video, I'm gonna listen to every comment and tip I got from that video because I love that dollar. Those subs, views, and likes. Also, this comment is the greatest comment ever written. I don't care what you say, that is art, and all of you should leave a comment like that. But in the meantime, as you are leaving the comment telling me that I'm the greatest YouTuber on earth and my voice is insanely sexy, I'm going to be reviewing The Suicide Squad. First thing I'm going to say is, that is one sexy shark. Yeah, that is just attractive. Okay, but seriously though, what the that thing? Please, don't touch my kids. Like, that should just be like an example. This film is just wacky. I mean, I feel like I was gonna get raped. Overall, this film is a treasure. I don't know how to perfectly describe this film in this review. I have a feeling this one's gonna be at least 10 minutes because of how much I have to say for this one film. They don't make them like this anymore, and this should be treasured. This is sad. DC has been beating out Marvel big time this year with their movies, and everybody knows I'm a Marvel superfan who knows more than you about the comics and movies. And it's a tragedy that I can no longer enjoy those films as much as I used to because of politics. These films are no longer an escape, but the two DC movies this year that have been released have both been perfect escapes that I adore. The sad part is, I don't know how much longer this is going to last, and I really hope it does because they truly don't make them like they used to. Number one thing about this movie that I don't think I need to say is that it is not the last film. Nothing like the last film, and we all have sympathy for David Ayer, at least I hope you do. Second thing, should have been the first thing, this film is actually a Suicide Squad film. All of these characters are expendable. I love how James Gunn just pulled from the can just took the most obscure characters possible. And it's kind of funny because I know more than you. I knew about them. So yeah, I basically knew about all these characters before the movie was released, but that's not the point. I don't need to flex my 5,000 IQ, guys. As I was saying, this is a pure Suicide Squad story. It is very faithful to the original comics from the 70s interpretation of the Suicide Squad, even though there was a Suicide Squad team from the 1940s, but we don't need to get into that. This film is literally filled with characters that you don't know about and don't care about that die in the first 15 minutes of the movie, which I will get to in a few seconds. But like I was saying, this is extremely faithful to the comics. This really does feel like a classic Dirty Dozen Suicide Squad adventure from the 70s. James Gunn did that really well in this movie. And this movie also has a fortress named after Norse mythology. And you all know I love my goddamn fortresses. This film makes me feel so nostalgic for old, fun, over-the-top military movies and the old Suicide Squad comics. Though I have read a few, they are amazing and a lot of fun. This really is a Suicide Squad film and really digs into the roots. My next point about the film will be about the first 15 minutes of the film. So, if you do not know, by the way, there are spoilers. You should freaking click off now. You probably should have clicked off freaking 3 minutes ago. But that's okay. I love idiots at this channel. I'm kidding, you're not an idiot. I love you. Please subscribe. One thing I'd like to say about the start of this movie is it moves fast. By the first 25 minutes, you are caught up and know everything you need to know about this film, leaving about 2 hours of the film that is just the film, which is a great quality for a film to have. And of course, in the first 15 minutes, it is awesome. All the characters have such cool dynamics just in the first 15 minutes. And it was kind of weird because Harley had this friendship with Boomerang, calling him Boomy, but she barely even knew him. Remember how I said that the characters in this film are expendable? It is not exemplified anywhere better than in the first 15 minutes of this film. My theory about the beginning portion of this film was 100% right. Everybody dies except for Harley Quinn and Rick Flag, and it is awesome. I love how all of them die, and there is so much humor, and this moment is so funny. I liked how everybody working with Amanda Waller was betting on them, just showing how dirty the business that they're doing is, and how all these characters just die. Like Mongol, based off Mongol, is a super popular, or not super popular, super powerful Superman villain. And how they just killed her in a few seconds of the movie, it was awesome. And how they just how Weasel just drowned, like that was awesome. It was just so funny. It was so bloody. It was so gory, and it was awesome. It was just awesome. This film is awesome. I mean, every character at the start, Blackguard, TDK, Savan, and Javelin. I mean, it was just so awesome. It perfectly exemplifies the film. I think it was perfect to truly start off the film the second Savan's head blows up. And I love how there's two different teams. Team A and Team B. Team A gets completely wiped out, which I predicted. I mean, it's just awesome. And Amanda Waller is so hardcore in this film. She is way meaner and way scarier in this, and she is just so good. Viola Davis is just so good in this movie. It's weird because this film is just full of wacky humor. Like, this film is wacky in all the best ways, but it also has a lot of dark comedy. Like, this movie is really funny. From Team A, especially Team B, the people betting with Amanda Waller, well, behind Amanda Waller's back, on who's going to die first, and how they were completely right, and they just started dancing when they died. I mean, that was hysterical. And then there's great dark comedy in this movie, and there's a few parts lightheartedness as somebody's freaking blowing somebody else's face off. Like, it's awesome. And how Bloodsport and Peacemaker just invade the base. Like, that's how I imagine directing my scenes. That's how I write my scenes in my scripts. Action scenes like that, where they just invade and just cutthroat, and the gore, like exactly what I would imagine, which adds to my love and admiration of this film. One thing I did notice about this film is its lack of score. Like, I really didn't notice it, and it wasn't really that impressive, but that's fine, because it didn't really need a score, because this film worked fine with barely having one, because I barely noticed it. And then the music for a James Gunn film, I mean, I didn't expect it to be as good as Guardians of the Galaxy, and I didn't want it to go over the top with the music, like the original Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy at some points. But music at some points is really good, especially when Harley's escaping, which I'll get to in a few seconds. But yeah, the film's music is not really my taste, but it's not really a big deal. Also, I like how this film has simultaneous stories going on, like with Rick Flag, the B Team, and with Harley. And I like how it showed the words. Like, I thought it was really fun how they did it to tell you, like, Jotunheim or Operation Harley. I mean, that was really fun. I like that a lot. Also, this film doesn't have the 4 problems that I tend to have with superhero films. 4 only problems that have only started happening recently that I will talk about in another video. But those problems are not present in this film at all. Also, there were fun Easter egg drops in the prison scene at the beginning of the film with Crazy Quilt and Calendar Man, because I knew it was both of them, but I just looked it up to clarify. Also, the humor in this film just lands. This is probably going to be the last thing I say about the humor, but it just lands, and there are some really funny guys in the film. My favorite line is when Bloodsport says, "Nobody likes to show off," and then Peacemaker says, "Yeah, but only when it's dope as F," and then Bloodsport turns around and whispers, "True." This film also has a blue-faced gibbon on Corto Maltese, which I think is a really cool, it just gave me such cool vibes. And yeah, blue-faced gibbons are awesome. This film is pretty good at making the squad connect with each other. I mean, they have little scenes where they all connect, and it kind of introduces their character development about abuse and family. Because, in this film, the character development, it's all small little changes. But those little changes turn out to give big results from these characters. And it's not really in your face, so many people are thinking that this film has no character development. Though it is small and it could have been better, they still have it in this film's film. Characters and their suits are actually really cool. Like, Bloodsport's suit and Peacemaker's suit are both really cool. And Bloodsport, King Shark, Peacemaker, Harley Quinn, and Ratcatcher are all really cool characters that you begin to like while watching this film. And Ratcatcher was super cool. She was kind of like Ant-Man, but with rats. And Sebastian the Rat, aka Ratatouille, was freaking awesome. I think Polka Dot Man in this movie doesn't get enough time to shine, is overrated and underwritten. But I do like that this was a fresh take on his character, who is obscure to the public. And also your mom. You'll get it when you watch the movie. The villains are pretty cool in this movie, and Starro I'll get to in a second. The Cornel Maltese freaking president and stuff, he was like a pretty nasty person. It was funny how Harley just killed him, which I will also get to in a second. And the Thinker was underused, but still pretty cool. Also, Starro is pretty intimidating. Like, those things like jumping on your face, imagine that happening. That's pretty freaking scary. It's literally like a xenomorph. And I love how they included Starro. It's so classic, it's so fun, it's so lighthearted, and it just fits with the tone of this stylized thrill ride that is James Gunn's Suicide Squad. He's such a classic villain that I want to use in my scripts, and he's the second villain the Justice League fought, so I'm glad they're using him in the way that he was meant to be used. Also, Rick Flagg's death in this film was great, and Peacemaker turning evil was also great. One thing that's pretty mixed about this film is how little the themes are implied, but they're still there. Also, there's a bullet battle between John Cena and Idris Elba in this movie, which is awesome. Okay, this review was originally supposed to be only 10 minutes, but I'm about to go overtime because there's just so much about this film to talk about. And the next thing, which is like the last main point, is Harley's palace intrigue, or her escape. I only call it palace intrigue because it reminds me of that episode of Archer. Okay, Harley Quinn's suit in this movie is so cool. Like, it's the perfect combination of tactical, classic Harley Quinn and a new, fresh interpretation of her suit. She's the coolest she's ever been in this movie, and I like all of her various looks in each of this movie. This one is by far my favorite. Also, Harley Quinn just falling in love with the dictator of Cornel Maltese and thinking she's a princess and becoming a princess and then killing him afterwards because of abusive relationships is just such a classic Harley Quinn thing to do. And like all the funny lines she says about him is it's such a Harley Quinn thing. This movie characterizes Harley Quinn, the best Harley Quinn has ever been characterized in the DC EU. And this movie really shows how much she's changed, because she just kills the president of Cornel Maltese because he's a dictator, because he hurts children. Harley is really starting to have moral boundaries. Well, as many moral boundaries as Harley Quinn can have. And Harley Quinn's like actual legit escape in this movie is so fun. It is so funny. It's darkly comedic. It's humorous. It's well choreographed. And it's just the whole battle, it just shows, it's like the perfect combination of Harley Quinn from each of the movies she's been in. And it does Birds of Prey better in this movie than Birds of Prey did Harley Quinn. And like, it's awesome how the flowers are flying around, the music is awesome during the scene. It's so much fun. The violence is just gorgeous. You just love the violence in this movie. It is so great. And that is by far, her escape scene is by far my favorite scene in the whole movie. Second to that is when Ratatouille asks for a beer, aka Sebastian, and then after that, the beginning death montage. Overall, Harley's escape is an extremely immersive, exhilarating thrill ride and just an adrenaline rush. At the end of the film, there are only 4 characters surviving who killed Starro and saved the day. Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Ratcatcher, and King Shark, who I love in this movie. To wrap it up, this film is unique. It's fun, and I want more films like it. This may be the last of its kind and the last good DC movie, because they might go to crap again with the J.J. Abrams version of Superman. This movie is a stylized James Gunn thrill ride. Though it's not perfect, I want to see more films like this, and I'm glad it leans away from identity politics. Overall, this film is like you just snorted a bunch of cocaine, and that cocaine is James Gunn. Naturally, this film gets a 9.4 out of 10.